Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Radhe, and we are starting a new conversation about the series about the history of religions. You know how the idea of religions and God was developed in ancient cultures and about along the history. So we have seen the first discussion was about the natural religion of Mother Earth. Then we had a quick overview of the ancient Mesopotamian and Egyptian and Greek history. And we came to the Hellenistic period, and we came to the Roman Empire. Now, Rome started as a monarchy, not as an empire. It started as a monarchy, then became a republic, and then became an empire. Monarchy, there were 7 kings only. The first 3 kings were from the Etruscan people, Etruscan civilization. Then the other 4 were, from the Italic tribes. And Rome developed an alliance of tribes. The third Etruscan king was actually kicked out because he was considered a bad guy at some point. So the 4th king was a local guy who had a personal relationship with the Yakshini, actually. It was Numa Pompilio, and the Yakshini was called Hygeia, if I remember correctly, but it's not very important. So then the Republic started, and the Republic ended with Julius Caesar. We mentioned Julius Caesar last time, that he went to conquer lots of places, including most of Europe. And then he got the idea, maybe we should make an empire, we should be the emperor. Because there was already some complication there. So what happened, that Caesar was killed. Oh, by the way, anytime you can stop me, and if there are any questions or doubts or anything. So,
Sure.
so when Julius Caesar was killed, his nephew, grandnephew actually, Octavianus, became the emperor actually, and he took the name of Augustus. He was an adopted son of Julius Caesar, grandnephew and adopted son. So next we had Tiberius, who was also from the same dynasty. So Julio-Claudian dynasty went from 27 BC to the current era of 68. So it is said that according to the Christian chronology, Jesus was born in this period under Augustus. Some say no, under Tiberius. They're very confused because there is hardly any historical proof of the story of Jesus. There is some historical proof of some parts of the story of Jesus, but absolutely not of all parts. For example, it looks like from the chronicles of the Roman Empire, there was no crucifixion from from under Augustus in 4 BC until the actual time of the Domitians, the era of 4 emperors. We have, okay, anyway, until I think 44 of this era. So the idea that Jesus Christ was born on the year 0 and was crucified in the year 33 is not true. So there was no crucifixion until the year 44, which was when the rebellions against the Roman Empire started to develop. Before the year 44, the Palestinian people in Israel, in Palestine, were not so against the Roman Empire. They were, like, okay, let's see what's happening. In fact, the occupation of Palestine by domination, not occupation, but the Roman Empire was quite relatively recent. What else? So basically, crucifixion was simply a punishment that the Roman government gave to those who rebelled against the Roman government, like escaped slaves, or what we call today separatists or terrorists. The Romans didn't care at all about religion. They would never punish anyone for believing in a different religion. In fact, in the entire Roman Empire, and especially in the city of Rome, there were dozens of different cults and temples and priesthoods and everything and whatnot. Especially the mysteries of Isis. The Egyptian religion was very popular. So, there was absolutely no reason why the Romans would crucify Jesus for his religious ideas. Someone on Quora asked me recently this question. They thought that Jesus was killed because he wanted to preach Dharma to the people in Palestine. Absolutely not. In fact, the popular iconography of Christianity, when they depict the crucifix, let me see if I can find quickly, let's see, in a crucifix. There we go. Oops. Images. So we have, okay, here. Visit. Simply Catholic, which is, they have a lot of sacred images, Catholics have. So if you see on top of the crucifix, the Jesus nailed on the wood, there is, oops, okay, no thanks. There is this acronym, INRI. INRI means Jesus Nazarenus Rex Judaorum, which means Jesus the Nazarean the King of the Jews. So they crucified Jesus, allegedly. We are not sure he was actually crucified, but in any case, if they crucified Jesus, they did it because he was presented. Jesus was presented as a Messiah, the real King of the Jews. While the Roman Empire had already appointed a king of the Jews that was supporting the Roman government. So basically, Jesus was considered like a separatist, an insurrectionist, insurgent, and therefore against the government of Rome. So, nothing to do with religion. So, what is a Messiah? What is the definition of Messiah? Messiah, we have mentioned quickly the ideas of Zoroaster that established this particular position of the king priest, the sacred king, the king who was both a ruler and a priest. And this is the meaning of Messiah, Mashua. In Hebraic, the name is Mashua. Let me see if we can get easily. Messiah. Not a television series. Okay. Or meaning. Anointed. Okay. So, the Messiah, Mashiach, okay, do not concern, thank you very much, Britannica, is the expected king of the Davidic line, from David, who would deliver Israel from foreign bondage and restore the glories of the Golden Age. The Greek New Testament is translation of the term Christos, became the accepted Christian designation of the title of Jesus. So a Messiah is supposed to be a military chief. So a leader, but is a military leader. Let me see. Messiah, anointed, chosen, the expected king and deliverer of the Jews. So, it's not what the people think usually. So, in Italy, we still have the one religious festival of Christ the King. Christ the King, Wikipedia. Which is the king. And that's why the Romans were not happy. Because they didn't want a Jewish king that they could not control. So basically what happened, that Christianity developed, but it developed in a particular way, in the sense that it started as a group of Jews that were already around the world as merchants, traders. They were traveling a lot. Then after the destruction of Jerusalem, many of them joined their community in Rome. Alexandria, Rome, in other places. But already in the times of Claudius and Nero, there were a number of Christians in Rome who followed the idea of the Jesus the Messiah. So Nero is famous for having burnt Rome. You remember that software for burning
Yes,
CD-ROM?
burning CDs.
It was called Nero.
I didn't know it was burning Rome.
Yeah, CD-ROM. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, now you get it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but the fact is that, Nero didn't burn Rome. It looks
Oh,
like
okay.
it was really the Christians. Because the early Christians were expecting Jesus to come back anytime, because we see in the Gospel, Jesus says very clearly, at least once, but I think more than once, that he will come back. He will be killed, but he will come back, and very soon. So these Christians were thinking, these Jews actually, because they're not Christians yet, they decided, they thought that they needed to purify the world with fire to make it suitable for the coming of Jesus. They had to, clean the world so that Jesus could come. So they were going around and burning stuff. And especially there is one particular point. It was Saint Augustine burned the synagogue. Was very proud of having burnt the synagogues. Augustine of Hippo. Let's see. When things fall apart. Okay. A brief history of anti-Semitism. Yeah, of course you can bet on the Jews giving the information. The good thing is that, so to speak, is that all the Abrahamic religions, are fighting against each other. Constantly. So, what happened, if you want, juicy information about, no, they not allow, okay. But maybe in Italy they don't allow. They don't allow. So here, the Bishop of Milan was responsible for the burning of a synagogue. He referred to it as an act of pleasing God. St. Augustine wrote blah, 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 blah. So, as I was saying, the good thing is that if you want juicy information about the Abrahamic sects, you go to their enemies within the Abrahamic group. So you want the goods about the Christians, you go to the Jews. You want to go the good about the Jews, you go to the Christians or to the Muslims. And if you want, it's the merry-go-round that they all, present their own group as the best, and they sell the dirty, laundry of the other brothers. So you can definitely find a lot of interesting information. So basically, it looks like even Nero was the first creator of the fire brigade idea, because he organized people with, going with water to stop the fires. The fires develop especially in the popular, the low-class areas of Rome, and it was easy because it was multi-story buildings, all made of wood, and the heating was by fire. So it was extremely easy to create a fire. Anyway, so Nero is supposed to be the first great persecutor of the Christians, which were not Christians yet anyway, because until that point they were still the followers of Jesus. Nobody has called them Christians. Jesus was a Jewish preacher, a Jewish leader, and the first group of his actual followers in Jerusalem were led by his brother James. Have you ever heard about James? I don't think so. Because the Christians usually speak about Paul and Peter, but especially about Paul. You heard about Paul?
Like no stories as such, but only the
You
name,
heard the
because here
name,
many
yeah, at
Catholic
least you
schools
heard the
are
name,
named after him.
exactly. Because the present day Christianity, the government Christianity, the system, establishment Christianity, political Christianity, was actually invented by Paul of Tarsus. His original name was Saul of Tarsus. He's called Paul because his father and himself became Roman citizens. So they were Roman citizens. Becoming Roman citizen was not so difficult. There was no racial discrimination. Racism started only from the Bible and became more pronounced in the colonial times. But before that, people didn't have racial discriminations. Lots of people in the Roman Empire were of different races. Like, for example, there was one emperor, Roman emperor, that he was called the Arab because he was from Arabia. So like what? Of course there were no Muslims at that time, but another one was called the Trajan. The different emperors. Also, some of the emperors came from very distant parts of the Roman Empire. They were born, foreigners, but either their family or themselves, they became Roman citizens for some reason, because they wanted the citizenship. So they were, considered totally equal to all the other Roman citizens. So basically, what happened that Nero became angry with these first, these Jewish followers of Jesus, because they didn't recognize the Roman government. They were following this idea of Jesus the Messiah, the King, Jesus the King. Then what happened that after Nero, the influence of Paul, which is called Saul of Tarsus, or Paul of Tarsus, which was not one of the apostles. He was not one of the disciples of Jesus. In fact, it says himself that he was a persecutor of the followers of Jesus. But one day, when he was traveling to Damascus, in now Syria, he had a sudden enlightenment. This episode is so famous that it became a stereotype, a trope, what to say, a phrasal expression to indicate someone that was, doing other stuff, and suddenly they got a very powerful realization, So basically, this big realization that Paul had is that it was not a good idea to keep persecuting the followers of Jesus. He was actually going to become their leader. Because, as the famous saying goes, if you can defeat them, join them. So, Paul went back to Jerusalem and went to the early disciples of Jesus, led by James, who was Jesus' brother. And he told them, he met them in front of the entrance of the temple in Jerusalem. And he told them, that Jesus talked to him, Jesus took him to heaven, and he had a very nice talk with him. And he told, apparently, Jesus told Paul that he was going to become the leader of the Jesus followers. And the actual followers of Jesus, they actually started to beat him up. They wanted to kill him. So Paul started screaming, "Help, help, I am a Roman citizen," because the Roman garrison was very near. So the Roman soldiers came and saved him. After which Paul decided that Jerusalem was not the right place for him anymore. So he went to Greece. He went to Turkey and then Greece, to Ephesus. Ephesus was a very important city at those times. There was a great temple of the Mother Goddess. So Paul started to preach his own idea of Christianity, which was a very Hellenistic idea of Christianity. So, practically speaking, he created all his ideas without ever having any learning anything from Jesus' direct companions or from Jesus himself. Everything is based on a dream that he had, that he went to heaven and talked with Jesus. So, basically, only after Nero, there was some, mess, because there was 1 year of the 4 emperors, because actually Nero committed suicide after being deserted by Praetorian Guard and sentenced to death by the Senate. So Nero was not very popular anyway. So there was, in the following year, from 69 to 68 to 69 of the current era, there were 4 emperors, because no one of them was actually, able to stand in the seat, to keep in the seat. So the last one, they were all murdered. The author committed suicide, but basically because he lost a battle to Vitellius, and Vitellius was murdered by Vespasian's troops, by the army. So the next one in the Flavian dynasty was Vespasian. Now, Vespasian started the Flavian dynasty. Flavian dynasty was 3 emperors, as we mentioned the other time. So the first was Vespasian. The second was Titus, who was the son of Vespasian. And the third one is Domitian, brother of Titus, the son of Vespasian. So basically, what happened is that Titus is famous for his campaign in Palestine. Titus was the one who destroyed, who was the general under Vespasian. Vespasian first appointed his son Titus as the general of the army and sent him to Jerusalem to control the rebellion. When Vespasian died, Titus became the emperor. But Titus is the one who went to destroy Jerusalem in 71. So Jerusalem was destroyed by the order of Vespasian, but by Titus. Now, when Titus went to Jerusalem to stop the rebellion of all these messiahs and people, whatnot, there is this, there was this guy who was called Josephus. I don't know if you heard about him.
No.
Okay. Josephus was one of the leaders of the rebellions. So he was fighting against the Romans. But at some point, he realized that the Romans were too strong. The army of the Romans was very organized, very strong, and very numerous. The Jews didn't have so many fighters, and the fighters they had were not comparable. So what happened is Josephus went to Titus and joined the Titus. And he told him, he told the Titus that to vanquish the Jews, he should present himself as the Messiah of the Jews. So the Messiah of the Jews is not necessarily a Jew, because in the Bible, Old Testament, the title of Messiah is given to the Persian Emperor Cyrus, which had nothing to do with Jews, but simply, according to the Bible tradition, he delivered the Jews from Babylon and he sent them back to Jerusalem. So Cyrus was considered a Messiah, chosen by God, who was doing God's work. So Josephus told Titus, okay, if we can present you as the Messiah for the Jewish people, they will believe you. And Titus was so happy that he officially adopted Josephus, so that Josephus became known as Josephus Flavius, because Flavius was the family name of the emperor, so he took the family name of the emperor. And Josephus Flavius wrote the Bello Judeorum, of the war in Judea, and he wrote the ancient stories of Judea. He wrote a lot of stuff, and he went on, and the idea of Christianity as a political religion developed. Now, after Domitian, we have, he only reigned, Titus reigned only for 2 years. 9 years, 2 years, 10 years. 15 years, sorry. Then we have the Nerva-Antonine dynasty, Minerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, Marcus Aurelius, Lucius Verus, Commodus, and everything that was more, more quiet, and the Christians became more powerful in the empire, especially in Rome, under the new preaching of Paul, because Paul was preaching that anyone could become a Christian without becoming a Jew. So it was a totally new religion, and many people think, yeah, why not? This is a good thing, because it was a very popular religion, mostly adopting a lot of the philosophy and ideology from the cult of Mithra. The cult of Mithra is coming from the Zoroastrian religion also. Mithra is considered the alter ego of the Ahura Mazda, in the sense that Mithra is considered the sun, the Surya, the sun planet. So the sun as a manifestation of power, God and everything, was very popular all over in all cultures. So the cult of Mithra was a very violent cult, and a very bloody cult, and therefore it was the main religion of the Roman soldiers, and it was some kind of elitist religion. So they had different degrees, a little bit like the Freemasons today. So it was a kind of imitation of the older mysteries, but much more, gross. Like, why I was saying bloody? Because, for example, the main ritual that the Mithraism had was called the Taurobolia, which means baptism by the blood of the bull. So they got a bull, ox, bull, and they cut the throat of the bull, and the new, as an initiation in Mithraism, the candidate had to stand under the blood flowing from the bull. That was called the baptism. So you can imagine the kind of religion the Mithraism was, and the kind of hybrid that came out as the early Christianity. So at some point, Rome was very much in a mess. So there we had another year of the 5 emperors. Not 4 but 5. So we had Pertinax, Didius Julianus, but then the other 3 are not mentioned. So because Pescennius, Niger, Claudius, Albinus, generally regarded as usurpers. And still we are missing 1, because there's still 4. But anyway, no problem. Let's go on. We have the Severan dynasty, starting from Septimius Severus. So started Caracalla, Geta, Macrinus, Diadumenian, Heliogabalus, Heliogabalus. He introduced, he supported the cult of Mithra very much. Helios, with the H, is the name of the sun planet, sun, Helios, Greek name of the sun. Then we have Severus Alexander. Then again we have the crisis of the 3rd century. So after the Christians came to Rome, you can see that it was a mess. We have Maximinus Thrax, because he was born in Thracia, which is I think like Serbia or something like that. Gordian first and second, and Pupienus, who knows who that? Balbinus, Gordian third, Philip one, the Arab, you see, he was an Arab. Okay, sure. Philip the Younger, Decius, Herennius Etruscus, Trebonianus Gallus, Hostilian, Volusianus, Emilianus, Silvanacus, Valerian Gallienus, and Saloninus, Claudius Gothicus. He was from the Goths. He was Illyria, he was in Yugoslavia. He was from another one from Serbia, Yugoslavia. Quintilius, Aurelian, Tacitus, Florianus, Probus, Carus. Lots of people, just, 10 months, 2 years, 80 days. Like what? This one, the last one was 1 year, So you can imagine what kind of mess,
See, all these emperors were like somebody won in fight and he was overthrown that way, or
Not exactly. It was either by assassination of the previous one, he killed the previous one. Not in battle, not in duel.
oh, like that.
In the bed with while the guy was sleeping,
Okay.
or it was by dynasty, or it was by acclamation from the army. Many of these were generals, commanders. Like, for example, this
Okay.
Aurelian was a commander of the Roman cavalry, proclaimed emperor by Danube legions after Claudius' death. So he was someone who stayed on the chair for some time. It was more than 5 years. So basically it was, killing each other, maybe.
Mhm.
Here this guy, Carinus, after 2 years, he died in battle, likely betrayed by his own soldiers. Like, okay, there is no dharma there.
Hmm.
They had no notion of dharma. It was all politics. All politics. The Roman culture didn't give a fig for dharma. And they were not very into Vidya either. In fact, the Greeks were the philosophers. The Romans were never philosophers. They were just soldiers. They were just, they were good and going around and killing people. They could, they were good in making roads, for example, aqueducts. They were good in making sewers. They still in Rome they're using the ancient sewers made by the ancient Romans. And they made aqueducts all over Europe. And aqueducts are still working. Most of them are still working today. What is an aqueduct? It's a kind of bridge that transports water, flowing water. So they had flowing water. They had the water distribution system that was, really something. They use a type of, cooling system in their buildings that was based on water, much like the air conditionings today. So they had this water flowing on the external walls of the house, which was extremely cooling. they had an obsession for bathing. So they had the famous baths, public baths. So they were kind of health resorts, that health spa. Actually, spa. You heard about spa in
Yes.
national. Yeah, spa
Yeah.
is a Latin acronym, which is salus per aquam, which means health by water. So they
Okay.
were, they had this water idea, very strong, both coming in clean water and going out dirty water. So in their baths, they made the baths, for example, in Britain, are famous. They still, in Germany, Baden, the name Baden that some German cities still have, is coming from the fact, from bath, which was the public bath built by the Romans. So they had, usually they had 3 pools, like one hot water, one cold water, one of the lukewarm water. So people were getting first into one pool and then moving to the other, a little bit like the sauna in Finland. They had saunas. They had this underfloor heating system by hot water circulated from a boiler, very much like this system that we still use today. The boiler is boiling water, which is then circulated through pipes into radiators. So the radiators, they irradiate the heat. And the Romans were much more advanced than that, because they had all this hot water going under the entire floor. So it was a very good system, but that was, of course, for the rich people. Not everybody has all that money. Rich people could, they had beautiful houses, beautiful homes. The poor people are practically living piled, one on top of the other in very primitive houses, without any piping, without any bathroom, so you can imagine it was not exactly hygienic. But the rich people, technically speaking, the Romans invented the cement. They built a lot of stuff with cement. And still today, the lots of buildings from the Roman times are still standing, if they were not destroyed on purpose by the Christians. But anyway, some were not destroyed, so they're still standing. Other things, they did a lot of roads. They made a lot of roads, very good roads. And they had the idea of the arena, the circus, starting from the Colosseum. The Colosseum, everybody has heard about the Colosseum, and that's another thing that the Romans were very fond of, because they had this culture based on violence and fighting and everything. So the idea of the gladiators was very attractive to them. So, but they started, in late imperial time, the gladiator fights, organized gladiator fights. And this idea that they were giving millions of Christians to be eaten by the lions is not exactly true. Historical research has shown that at most, all along the history in Rome, not more than 3,000 Christians were killed. Not more than that. So, and they were killed not because they believed that Jesus Christ is God. They believed that Jesus Christ was the actual king, and the Roman government was illegitimate. So they were not supposed to obey the Roman government. That was the real reason. But what to do? Then we have lots of this. Then we have the dominate from 2084 to 284 to 476. And then we come to Diocletian. Diocletian was, probably he realized that the Christians were a big problem, politically speaking. So he was commander of the imperial bodyguard acclaimed by the army after the death of Numerian, blah, blah, blah. He says, it became the last great persecution of Christianity. Because, of course, he saw that the Roman system, had gone down to the toilet. The government of Rome was, a disaster. For more than, almost 200 years, there was this chaos. There was no emperor, there was a dominate. And people, the government was not even able to stand. So Diocletian, decided, okay, let's do a little bit of cleanup. But what happened? There was some problem. That is what is called a tetrarchy. Because he couldn't be the only emperor, because everybody was fighting. So he was, a cooperative emperor with Maximian, Galerius, and Constantine. And Constantine is the one that the Christians like specifically. So Constantine was able to remove all the other ones, and he became the only emperor, but only for little more than 1 year. So, died of natural causes, okay. Constantine was the emperor who made the famous Edict of Milan in 313, if I am correct, if I remember well, that declared Christianity as a state religion. That's why the Christians love him so much. They have, especially the Vatican is like, wow, Constantine. They have a huge statue of Constantine there in the Vatican. So basically, Christianity became even more powerful. Then we have Severus II, Maxentius, Licinius, Maximinus, Valerius Valens, Martinian, and all these were deposed by Constantine, executed. Constantine killed all these guys, basically speaking. So, then we have the Constantinian dynasty. So Constantine the Great, this one, first Christian emperor and founder of Constantinople. Why he was the founder of Constantinople? Come on, he was the emperor of Rome. Why did he go to found Constantinople? What do you think?
No idea.
because after making Christians, the Christianity, the state religion, to control the Christians, he was completely unable to control the Christians. They kicked him out of Rome.
Yeah, you told about this story
Yeah.
last
So, Constantinople found a way. This is, isn't it funny? Constantinople means the city of Constantine. He had to go away from Rome. He had to run away from Rome and start a totally new city that he called Nova Roma, New Rome. Then, of course, they call it Constantinople because, Nova Roma, what is the point? Nova Roma sounded like, hilarious, So they call Constantinople. Then we have the son of Constantine, another son. And then we have Magnentius, but all these, they committed suicide and abdicate, they're not captured and executed by supporters of Magnentius. So you can see the Roman army was not exactly very dharmic, and especially by becoming, dedicated to the religion of Mithra and later to Christianity. Then we have Julian the Apostate, which was not, he was not an apostate because he was never Christian. Apostate in Christians define as apostate as someone who was a Christian and then abandons Christianity. But he was never a Christian, so he was not the apostate. He tried to bring back the Roman Empire, to bring back the previous religions. But he was not exactly very successful. So he lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 23 days. Not much more than a Chinese blender. So, last non-Christian emperor mortally wounded during campaign against Persia. Okay, Jovian. Then we have the Valentinian dynasty. They're all Christians. This one died of a stroke while yelling at envoys. Okay, it was, take a chamomile there. So, Valens, blah, blah, all the same period, more or less. Gratian, Gratianus, Magnus, Maximus, right. Okay. And, 5 years, not bad. Valentinian II. Then we get in 395, we get the bigger one, bigger than Constantine, Theodosius the Great. So what did he do, Theodosius, to be the Great? He ruled for almost 16 years, which is like, wow. And he declared Christianity as the only legal religion of the empire. So all the non-Christians had either to convert or be killed. So Theodosius organized the first concentration camps in history. And, he became famous for the Edict of Thessaloniki. You heard about the Thessaloniki project in the recent years? No. The Thessaloniki project is a campaign by Christian evangelists, especially from USA, based on the Thessaloniki edict of this guy. So the Thessaloniki project is an explicit campaign, explicit project to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the non-Christians. And especially they targeted India and Hindus. So, Thessaloniki, yeah, okay, Theodosius the Great. And then we have, the other guys here. But basically, Theodosius was the last emperor to briefly rule over the two halves of the empire after the Battle of the Frigidus. Which means that Theodosius, practically speaking, split the Roman Empire, completely abandoning Rome. So there we had the splitting between the Eastern Roman Empire based on Constantinople and the Western Roman Empire, which was supposed to be based on Rome, which had zero power by now. The only power there was were the Christians, which were totally impossible to rule and to control, so are killing each other, making a mess. So, basically, with Theodosius, the Roman Empire, the global Roman Empire, is over. His successor, Arcadius, was emperor in the east only. And at the same time, Honorius was emperor in the west, but he only went on for 28 years and 29 days, but he was basically emperor by name only. Then we have emperor in the west, Constantine III, Theodosius II in the east, and so we have these parallel, emperors in the west and in the east, but Theodosius was nominating the successors. Then you have Martian and last Western emperors. Basically, we had, one after the other, also not so long. So the last one in 476, the last Western emperor deposed by the Germanic general Odoacer and retired. Odoacer was the king of the Goths and he was Christian. So the barbarians who destroyed the Roman Empire were actually Christians. Okay. They're not pagans as, Christian scholars and, teachers say, but they were actually Christian. Then in the eastern side, it went on a lot longer. And, Justinian the Great was 38 years, temporarily reconquered half of the Western Roman Empire, including Rome. And, 38 years, 39 years, not bad. Then we have the Heraclian dynasty, also 3 months, 6 months. Now, this is one Constantine the second, 26 years, yeah. But he was murdered in Sicily. So, okay. Then we have the 20 years anarchy with the Lateran. Then we have the Syrian dynasty, which means it became the Byzantine Empire. Yeah, the Isaurian Syrian dynasty. So, that's it. And then we have Leopold the Khazar. We discuss about the Khazars next time. So we have gone 15 minutes more than we wanted. We had planned.
No issues. I anyways joined me 10 minutes late.
Yeah, okay, it's okay.
There are 1 hour maybe.
Yeah. So anyway, Okay, so we can see there was a lot of mess, but Rome was over before the year 500. And the Eastern Roman Empire fell to the Muslims when the Muslims conquered, the Ottoman sultans, claimed to be the legitimate Roman emperors in succession to the Byzantine emperors. So the Ottoman Arabs, Muslims, claim to be the next Roman emperors. So, okay, this is, I think, gives an idea of what happened, how the rise of Christianity was not exactly based on love and preaching and freedom and happiness and we are all brothers and sisters. You can imagine their idea of God. we don't have to to detail too much. Okay, so we'll continue next time. Unless next time you want to talk about something else. Thanks for the participation.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.